are one step away from the Super Bowl on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. It is Championship weekend. We'll be crowning champions from the NFC and the AFC. We've got Philadelphia taking on Washington. We've got the old rivals Buffalo taking on Kansas City. If anything, Tom, it's a rivalry weekend because we've got two teams from the same division playing each other as well. So it's fascinating, albeit no one expected Washington to be here.
Yeah, just 4 teams remain. This is really the clutch part of the season, isn't it? Washington are definitely the big surprises. I think, obviously, most people would have expected either Kansas or Buffalo, maybe even both in the AFC. Washington, I don't think anyone expected to get this far this season, especially with a rookie QB. The Eagles, I suppose they had Super Bowl claims coming into the year, so they're not a surprise either. Should be 2 fantastic games on Sunday, back-to-back as well, and hopefully no snow games this week.
Yeah, no, it was okay. It was okay. It didn't get terrible, but I'm still a dome football person rather than... I just enjoy happiness. Sure, snow's pretty and whatever, but it ruins football. How do you think Jahan Dotson is feeling this weekend?
I think he's feeling like he wants to get revenge on the Commanders. What about you?
Well, I reckon when he got traded to Philadelphia, he's like, yes! Contender, let's go. And then he gets to the championship game. He's like, what are you guys doing here? Like, what? But look, his line for this week is 3.5 receiving yards. So I was looking at that. I'm not going to do it, but I was looking at it. But
I was looking too.
We've got a couple. There's a couple of revenge games. Zach Ertz is in there as well. So yeah, it's revenge games from either side. But yeah, Jahan Dotson is a very interesting one this week. And I think will be used in a lot more bet builders that we'll get to a bit later on than maybe he would do in a normal week. Judging from the last week, anything happened to... I've got no complaints about my players. Any on yours?
Yes. Firstly, you did very well last week. Well done. You went 3 from 3 in your confident picks, and the only loser was Ty Johnson anytime touchdown, which was the biggest prize play of the whole season, and kind of unlikely to happen, but still good value play. So you did very well. Round of applause.
I'm just checking one thing, because do you remember I said last week that my initial player wanted Ty Johnson over on the receiving yard side of things? His receiving line was 10.5. If he's gone over on this, I'll be livid.
Okay, you can check that.
No, 8 yards. We're all good.
You're all good, mate. Don't worry. But you did very well regardless. Me, on the other hand, I let you guys at home down. I apologise. I was shocking last week. I think I only had one winner across the games. But I feel like some of the matches were just extremely frustrating. Let me give you a quick review of what happened last week. Right, first up, I thought the Chiefs were exceptionally lucky against the Texans. They got their standard biased calls from the officials, as they do every year, especially in the playoffs. Sorry, Chiefs fans, but this is true. And it was a lot closer of a game than the 9-point margin suggests. They were lucky. They were probably slightly the better team, though the Texans did actually outgain them in total yardage. And CJ Stroud, I thought, played better than Patrick Mahomes. But there you go. Mahomes just flopping on the sideline. Whatever.
That sucked. I hated that, by the way. Carry on.
I don't know what he's doing. Also, regarding the Chiefs, okay, let me make this very clear to defensive coordinators who are obviously better at their job than I would be at that job. But they have one weapon on offense that is not Patrick Mahomes. That weapon is Travis Kelce. Why are you leaving him open in the middle of the field constantly? It just makes no sense. The guy is as slow as molasses. He is so slow. He can't even turn. How is he... Right. If this week Travis Kelce goes for 70 plus yards, there's going to be a rant in the Super Bowl preview because I'm not having teams allowing Kelce to get that amount of yardage. He has kind of lost it. Look, he's still a good player. He's got solid hands. He can run routes, but he is so slow. You've got to be able to cover him. Next game, the Commanders Lions, absolutely brilliant. I've got no qualms about that matchup. It was probably the game of the week in terms of point scoring and excitement. The Lions obviously probably didn't get the best play calling, but they were great. And that was actually the game where we both landed our selections. So I've got no negativity there. Kind of wanted to see the Lions get to the Super Bowl, but wasn't to be. The Eagles against the Rams, it turned into a snow game in the second half. I liked AJ Brown. Receptions wasn't going to happen in the snow. Jalen Hurts kind of looked like he was limping badly, and now is suddenly okay. So God knows what happened there. But the Eagles managed to get through late, whatever. The Ravens-Bills game, right? Okay, the Bills won, 27-25. Fine, whatever. They progress, and we'll talk about their matchup this week against the Chiefs. Mark Andrews, I said in about week 10 this season, the guy's lost it. He is an old man playing in the league, despite the fact he's only 29 or whatever he is, and he needs to retire. He had the worst game I think I've ever seen from a tight end. It was ludicrous. There were 2 drops prior to the bit that we'll talk about coming up. And then in the end zone for the 2-point conversion, they've run that play 3 times in Mark Andrews' career. 3 times he's been open. 3 times he's dropped the ball. I mean, throw it to Likely. Why wouldn't you throw it to Likely? Andrews cost the Ravens a chance to get through. They were the better team. I know I'm biased, but they were the better team against the Bills, and the Bills progressed. It was a mad week. It was enjoyable, but there was a lot of points where I was very frustrated.
A few points from this. I'm a big fan that you hadn't prepared what to say when you were saying Travis Kelce is slow, and then you went for molasses.
Yeah, I could have gone for anything that was slow. I've gone for molasses. You know.
What are molasses, Tom?
Skip. Cut. Next.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I've just learned this. I just know that they say it in country songs a lot. But do you know what molasses is in the UK?
I know what molasses is in the UK. It's isn't it like a syrupy thing?
It's black treacle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm learning that. But big fan of that. Big fan of that. Do you know how many players for the Kansas City Chiefs last week were targeted in the game by Patrick Mahomes?
Let me guess 3, because I know Kelce. Obviously, Kelce was. I know Worthy was the only wide receiver.
How many were targeted?
Maybe 5.
9 got a target.
What?
9 players got a target.
How many got a reception?
Huh?
How many had a reception?
4.
Yeah. Shocking. It was literally Kelce and a bit of Worthy.
Kelce, Noah Gray, Worthy, and I want to say, Kareem Hunt, I think, got one as well.
Yeah.
It was Kareem Hunt or Pacheco, I think. But yeah, everyone else dropped their targets. It was awful. But it was all Kelce on that part. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, you can't spend all year slagging off Mark Andrews. Switch teams. And then get annoyed at him when he does the exact thing that you're saying. And also, I would like to say one thing as well. You know how, like, I can't remember I don't know what TV show it's from. It was like a superhero one. Like, your man, like, he flies down, he lands, and then there's people around him, and they all start clapping him. But he thinks he's going to be the bad guy. He's like looking around going like that, and then he gets happy. That's Lamar Jackson, because he's got away like scot-free. He was dreadful against Buffalo. He threw 2 awful picks. He threw the ball on the ground once. He was dreadful. He was absolutely awful, except for like 1 drive. And people going, "Oh, it's Mark Andrews' fault." No, it's not. Lamar Jackson was really bad.
I kind of disagree. Look, I think the fumble was shocking. He had the ball way out, and he shouldn't have. He should have had that tight and locked in. The second interception, fine, that was poor. The first interception, I did see it from another angle. If you watched it live, it just looked like he threw it to the safety. I watched it from another angle. I think Bateman ran the wrong route.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm happy to excuse him that one. I think he was just okay. I don't think he was shocking. I would put it on Andrews because he had a chance to take the game to overtime, and he didn't.
I don't know. I think the Bateman interception, 100%. That was on Bateman. He beat his guy, and then he just decided to run a different route entirely. And Lamar Jackson trusted him, and that's what happened when you trust Rashad Bateman. But I don't know. I don't think he was very good. And people are going on Mark Andrews. Well, he dropped it, and he ran that ridiculous route when he threw the ball on the ground. I don't know what he was doing there. But all in all, I think we spoke last week, and you were saying, I don't know how Baltimore get beat. And I said to you, Baltimore always have a game where they do something dumb and they get beat that way. There you go. This is the way Baltimore get beat.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't a better team. It's just, you know, it happens. I mean, they lost earlier in the year to the Raiders. Remember that, when they were 10 points down.
Exactly.
But yeah, it is what it is. I have to get over it at some point. We are going to move on to game picks for this week, by the way, guys. Just a little rant about last week. It's very frustrating.
Yeah. I loved my guys last week. I thought they were great. One thing I liked as well is they covered in like the first quarter. Yeah. It was like Austin Eckler's first touch of the game, 24-yard catch. Brilliant. That's him in. Dalton Schultz in the first quarter. His line was like 34. He got a 34-yard catch. It was great. It was great. Let's talk about our sponsors, SBK, who are bringing new, fun and inventive ideas at you for the playoffs. Do you like the little swish I put on that?
I did. Yeah, it was quite nice.
Yeah. This week, they're offering, alongside their new accounts, bet £10, get a £40 in free bets back on their new app. 25% bonus first touchdown. This week, though, in the Bills-Chiefs game. They did that last week with the Ravens-Bills game. This week, going with Bills-Chiefs. So 25% bonus in that market gives you a bit extra value on the first touchdown scorer. T's and C's apply. Do bet responsibly and 18 plus only. Go on, do you think?
Link in the description below, guys. If you do want to take advantage of those offers on the NFL, there are also separate offers on horse racing and other sports as well. Then sign up below. There's a link in the description. Look, why would you not do it via that link? It helps us out massively if you click that link, and obviously you get the account that you wanted and can take advantage of the offer. So yes, please do that.
When you say that, it sounds like we're getting money from it. We get nothing from that.
We're not, but they can see how many we
yeah,
get
they just look and go, oh, Devin touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly.
I am suddenly parched. Really thirsty.
You are a ridiculous human. You really are.
I'm just gonna elevate the finger for the. I'll do the victory sip. All right then.
Oh.
How does that
skip through this 10 seconds?
How does that feel watching that?
It feels grim. It feels horrible. I blame Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. It was delicious. It was delicious. I'm looking to go unbeaten in the playoffs for plays of the day. Please subscribe down below. We're on the road to 500. We want 500 subscribers by the Super Bowl. That will be absolutely fantastic. Please leave a like, comment down below any fancies you may have for this week as we move into game one of Championship weekend. We're looking at the Commanders against the Eagles, the NFC Championship game. Currently, the Eagles are 6-point favourites at home. The over-under is 47.5 points. Look, expecting a good one here, Tom. The last time these two teams faced off, which wasn't that long ago, we had a real good game. Was it 36-33? That they both put up points.
Yeah, it was a really good game, lots of offense, and I expect that's going to be the case this time around. Obviously, in the playoffs, especially when you get deep in the playoffs, there's a lot of incentive to be good defensively. But these two teams, well, I mean, the Eagles do have a good defense, but the Commanders' offense is so good that they can probably put up points against anyone. Meanwhile, the Commanders' defense just isn't very good at all, so the Eagles should be able to move the ball. This should be a great game. The Eagles are the favourites for a reason. They have Saquon Barkley. That should be enough, and they've got home field advantage. But I'm going to go back to the well on the Eagles side of things, and I'm going to go back to AJ Brown, a guy who obviously let us down last week. I liked his overs on reception. I thought it was a good thing, over 4.5 receptions. It turned out not to be. He had 1 catch on 6 targets, but there are numerous reasons why that happened. Firstly, it was a snow game in the second half. It was very hard to throw the ball. So, he only had half a game to actually tally up the receptions I needed, and he didn't. Secondly, the Eagles' pass attack just wasn't much. They went to Dallas Goedert a fair bit, but otherwise they didn't have much in that regard, purely because Saquon was incredible on the ground, as per usual, and also it was a snow game. And thirdly, they kept running AJ Brown on deep go routes and posts rather than slants and 5-and-ins, 5-and-outs, which is where he's seen at his best. He's a big body guy. He can easily get yards after the catch. But no, they decided to keep throwing it down the field 25, 30 yards to him and hope he makes a wonder catch. This week, that's going to change, I think. The Commanders' defense, especially the secondary, is quite weak. So I like AJ Brown over 4.5 receptions, the same bet as last week, but a better price, 20-21 this week. And I also like AJ Brown over 60.5 receiving yards at 10-11. This guy's elite. He's an elite wide receiver. Okay, he's got 2 back-to-back games in the playoffs where he's disappointed, against the Packers and last week as well against the Rams. Won't be the same this week. I'm sure he's going to have a big game. So give me AJ Brown double
AJ Brown after being whooped by AJ Brown last week. I do get what you're saying. Kellen Moore's offense was weird last week. Why do that? He ran 1 slant and it was the easiest catch you will ever see, and he got a first down for it. But at one point he had 6 targets, 1 catch. Just wasn't good enough.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, look, he obviously wasn't used to his best effect last week or the week before against Packers. However, he will be this week. I'm sure he's going to be more in the playbook. And crucially, Washington have been so bad against the run all year, really, haven't they? You were targeting them at the start of the season with running backs against Washington. In the playoffs so far, they allowed Jahmyr Gibbs last week to basically run all over them. Previous to that in Tampa as well, Bucky Irvin had a good game. So they're terrible against the run. Saquon Barkley is the Eagles' best player. are the Commanders not just constantly going to fill the box inside and try and stop Saquon as much as they possibly can? That feels like the obvious way. AJ Brown would then be 1-on-1 outside, and hopefully Jalen Hurts can make the most of it.
Yeah, it was actually receivers that I was targeting against Washington, but they were dreadful against everyone. I mean, props to the Washington coaching staff. They have turned things around. Dan Quinn and his team have done a great job because the start of the year, they were absolutely horrific as a defensive unit. They're okay now. They've changed stuff. They've brought guys in. Don't know how much Marshall and Latham was actually helped or been a hindrance, but look, they look good. But we're going to switch over to the Washington side of things because I'm going to go with my first selection, and we're going to go for Zach Ertz. We're going to go in a slightly different market. It's not the receiving yards markets, but the receptions. His line is at 3.5. I think he goes over that quite comfortably. It's 20 to 23, so it's a bit more of an odd price. But as we mentioned at the start of the podcast, it's a revenge game for Zach Ertz. He will absolutely want to beat Philadelphia. There's no hard feelings. Philadelphia fans like Zach Ertz, but you want to beat your old team. Just ask Jahan Dotson, who's on the other side. But Philadelphia have weirdly become terrible against tight ends. And I don't know where it's come from because it was a little out of nowhere. But last week, Philadelphia allowed 7 catches for 54 yards and the touchdown to Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee then got hurt and he missed a little bit of time. Colby Parkinson came in for the Rams. He got 2 catches for 9 yards and a touchdown as well. So that opens things up for Zach Ertz. You go back 2 weeks ago, Tucker Kraft, I wouldn't say was productive, but he got 5 catches for 26 yards for the Packers. That's still a nice stat line, and they're allowing catches to the position. Zach Ertz last week, he wasn't hyper-targeted. It was more De'Ami Brown who's really stepped forward and Terry McLaurin. But Zach Ertz wasn't far behind. De'Ami Brown, I think, led the team in targets with 8. Zach Ertz had 5, and he caught all 5 of them as well. He got 26 yards and a touchdown. Doesn't quite tell the whole story of how he was used. He was used in sort of big key moments of the game. He had a fourth down catch, which then went on to be a Brian Robinson touchdown. I think he had to be evaluated for a concussion just after that as well. So he missed a bit of time during the game himself. In week 11, we'll go back to the game against Philadelphia. He had 6 catches in that game. He only had 1 catch in week 16. That was on I think it was a second game back from injury, so he was being reintroduced back into things. I think Zach Ertz goes over this line quite comfortably of 3.5 receptions. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be looking for him. Philadelphia are going to be on him very much early on. And look, Philadelphia, they're a very good defensive unit. They might not have Quinion Mitchell. It's been said, I think he's expecting to play, but they've still got Cooper DeJean. They've got a very, very good defense. I think Zach Ertz is a guy that you're going to have to look at. And in the year of 2025, Tom, did not expect to be saying that a few years back.
Yeah, I thought it was done. I thought it was gone and probably going to retire, but that's not the case. And he's really had a good second half of the season. You just talked there about how maybe Jaden Daniels is going to struggle throwing out wide to wide receiver, De'Ami Brown and Terry McLaurin, just purely because of how good the Eagles' corners are. I think Mitchell is going to play, by the way. DeJean definitely going to play. Slay's in there as well, and CJ as well, Gardner Johnson.
Yeah.
I think there's a better way to attack the Eagles' defense. And I think it's going to be Go on, do your thing.
No, you do it.
No, I'm waiting for you to do it.
It's time to joint play Redemption Edition.
It's going to be a joint play because I feel like we both see this in very similar light. The Commanders are going to score points, they're going to move the ball, but they're not going to be able to throw that much to McLaurin, despite the fact he's a very good wide receiver, and Brown. So, what better way to do it? Do you hand the ball off to Brian Robinson? Maybe. Do you hand it off to Austin Eckler? Probably not. Do you run with Jaden Daniels? Absolutely. Jaden Daniels over 54.5 rushing yards at 10 to 11. Both Luke and I like this, but I'll give my spiel as to why I like it. 29 carries in 2 playoff games for a quarterback. Full stop. That is basically it. Now, he's obviously going to get a huge workload. He's averaging around 15 carries per game so far in the postseason. During the regular season, not as high, but was still used, especially prior to his rib injury. He's only got 36 and 51 yards, respectively, in those 2 postseason games, despite the amount of carries. But it's going to be different this week. He's going to be breaking long ones, I think, against this Philly defense, who their D-line is pretty good, but they're not very good at containing QBs in the pocket. I like the fact that they're not adverse to calling Jaden Daniels' number at every single point. He kind of is used in the same way that Josh Allen is, but to a greater extent for the Commanders. And yeah, I would be very disappointed if he didn't cover 54.5, especially considering that if they go down early in this game, they're not going to be running with Robinson. It's going to be all on Daniels, especially in the second half, like third quarter. And then he's going to have to scramble. And from there, Daniels should easily cover. So I'm pretty confident about this play.
Yeah, I am as well. I honestly, coming into the week, I thought all 4 quarterbacks are going to go over their rushing line. Jalen Hurts is a little banged up, so I went away from that angle. But if Jalen Hurts is genuinely good to go, then I think he'll be fine because his line's only like 29.5, and he's been running the ball a lot recently. The Eagles, they're not really that. In recent weeks, they haven't been tested against mobile quarterbacks. They had Jordan Love, who had 2 carries for 10 yards. Against the Rams last week, they allowed 5 yards on a whole carry to Matt Stafford, which was wild. Week prior to that, they faced the Giants. They faced the Cowboys the week before that. I mean, Russell Wilson had nearly, I think, 20 yards it was on 4 carries a few weeks ago, but we're getting a little way back now. You go back to the last time these two teams were against each other. Jaden Daniels smoked Philadelphia on the ground, 81 yards on 9 carries. If he's doing that on 9 carries against Philadelphia, if he's up to 13 or 16, which are the 2 carries or 2 amounts of carries he's had in 2 playoff games so far, he's going to do great. The one thing I will say about the yardage, which you rightly mentioned, 36 and 51, is a little concerning. 36 in wildcard weekend, I think he was panicking. He looked like a rookie for a large part of the game, and he just wanted to take off. He was doing the thing that I said a few weeks back on the podcast of quarterbacks want to run, and they just want to get the job done now. But since they last met these two teams, Nakobe Dean's no longer here. He got hurt last week. They've got, obviously, Quinion Mitchell, who we think is going to play, but I know he's passing it off as, yeah, I'm fine. If you leave in a playoff game and you don't come back, you're hurt. Like, you don't leave just for nothing. There's something not 100% there with Quinion Mitchell. Brandon Graham, obviously, we know is already out. He might be able to return for the Super Bowl, apparently, Brandon Graham, if they do make it there. But we'll go back to the old adage, Tom, quarterbacks run in the playoffs.
Especially very mobile and dynamic quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels. So I very much agree with you, and hopefully we can land a joint play in the conference round.
Absolutely. We'll move on to the AFC Championship, which is probably the more interesting game from a class perspective. Buffalo Bills taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are currently 1.5-point favourites at home. 47.5 is the line as well for total points. I'm going to start things off in this because in the playoffs, Tom, quarterbacks love to run the ball. Patrick Mahomes, I love this bet as well. I adore this bet so much. Patrick Mahomes, not on the rushing yards. That's fine. You can bet that as well if you want. That's okay. But Patrick Mahomes over 4.5 rushing attempts. 4.5 rushing attempts. That's even money. That's the bigger price of the two. I don't know what on earth bookmakers are looking at with this. But he's rushed 6 or more times in 4 of the last 5 playoff games, including last week as well, and obviously going back into last year. He rushed 6 and 5 times against Buffalo in the playoffs with their 2 face-offs in the last few years. And Buffalo so far this year in the playoffs, they've not contained quarterbacks at all. Lamar Jackson last week, he only had 6 carries, took him for 39 yards. Bo Nix the week before that, 4 carries, but 43 yards out of it. Patrick Mahomes is a guy that likes to run, especially in the playoffs as well. He's the archetypal, I'll just go and get the job done myself, especially last week when you've got players dropping the ball all over the place. Like I say, he targeted 9 players. 4 of them managed to get a catch. Obviously, Travis Kelce and Noah Gray stepped up and they had a fair few more. Xavier Worthy did well as well. The deeper we get into the playoffs as well, and this is a stat I love about Patrick Mahomes, the further you get towards the Super Bowl and in the Super Bowl, the more he runs the ball. Last year, in 4 playoff games, he had 2 carries, 6, and then 9 in the Super Bowl. 2 years ago, 3 carries, then 6 to round things off. The year before that, 3 carries, 5. So he carries the ball more and more. I think he'll carry the ball more again this week. And I think Patrick Mahomes over 4.5 rushing attempts. I don't understand why that's the outsider of the pair. And little cheat code here for you, Tom. If Kansas City win the game and Patrick Mahomes has to take a couple of knees, that counts.
Well, that is a cheat code. That is very much a cheat code. We saw last week what happened when KC were trying to waste time, didn't we?
Yeah, it counts. It's a rushing attempt. It will, if you take the rushing yards, ruins it. He did it in the playoffs a few years ago. He had like 50 rushing yards, and then he lost 15 of them taking knees. But 3 rushing attempts. 4.5 is ludicrous. Even money, I love it.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. What's your next one?
I'm going to go on to... What was it you said about Travis Kelce earlier on?
Don't. I know what you're going to do here. Don't do it.
You said that you don't want him to go over 70 yards or something, wasn't it?
Correct.
I like Travis Kelce to go over 69.5 receiving yards, which is his line. That's 10 to 11. I'm going to... quiz time. Do you want... Right. I'll be impressed if you get this one. How many consecutive playoff games has Travis Kelce gone over 70 yards in? Consecutive.
It will be quite a few. Let's say 6.
Higher.
8.
Higher.
10.
Higher.
Okay, I'm bored now. Give me the number.
14. That includes Super Bowls. Yep. 14 consecutive playoff games, Travis Kelce has gone over 70 yards. That is an outrageous stat from Travis Kelce, but it also builds into the fact that the Chiefs don't really care about the regular season. You know you're going to make the playoffs. You just get there however way you can. Travis Kelce suddenly, last week, had a season-high 117 yards. Buffalo as well. They're not good against tight ends. We mentioned it against Philadelphia. Last week, they allowed 4 for 73 and a touchdown to Isaiah Likely. They allowed 5 for 61 and could have been more to Mark Andrews last week. Only 4 players, as I say, as well, had a catch for Kansas City last week. Who's Patrick Mahomes going to trust? It's going to be his guy. It's going to be Travis Kelce. He'll be getting him the ball whenever he possibly can. Like I say, 5 other players recorded a target without getting a catch. In games like this, and especially against an old rival in Buffalo, Patrick Mahomes is going to be looking at guys and he's going to be thinking, I'm going to go back to Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce over 16.5 receiving yards. Love it.
I don't. I understand the workings and I love the stat. However, as I already talked about, if a defensive coordinator is watching the Chiefs and they don't think to double Travis Kelce to do everything you can to stop Kelce gaining big yardage, then the DC should be fired. He's the only offensive weapon apart from Worthy. Let Worthy beat you out wide. If he beats your corner in a one-on-one, then whatever. If you allow Travis Kelce to dominate in zone coverage, then you've had a stinker. So for me, I think the Bills are going to go all out to try and stop Travis, and therefore maybe he won't hit his over. But obviously, you're hopeful that doesn't happen.
Yeah, confident that doesn't happen. The Bills, if they do that, though, Tom, then the Bills will win the game, won't they?
Come on, the Bills! Yeah. I'm looking forward to this game. Now, I've only got one play in it, and it's very obvious, I think. It's Bills' money line against the Chiefs. They actually open 1-point favourites. Did you see this? They open 1-point favourites. Now the market is now switched, so the Chiefs are 1.5-point favourites. It's surprising. Here's a stat for you. It's not at all relevant to the selection here, but these are the 2 best teams in the AFC, supposedly. I think Baltimore are, but whatever. These 2 teams actually met back in 2021, and the Chiefs won 38-24 on that occasion. But did you know that the last time an AFC Championship game happened that didn't... Wait, let me rephrase that. When was the last AFC Championship game which didn't include either the Chiefs or the Bills? Do you remember?
Oh, God, it would be a while ago. 2018?
Ooh, 2017. Yeah, that was back when the Patriots were still a good team and not absolutely shocking. So yeah, it's just been dominance from both of these teams. Either one or both of them make it into the AFC Championship game. Normally it's the Chiefs. Look, I've been quite low on Kansas City all year. They've proved me wrong by winning the majority of their games. However, they won loads. I know, again, sorry if you're a Chiefs fan, I'm about to go on a rant. They've won games they shouldn't have, whether that be officiating, whether that be missed field goals, whether that be last-minute winning field goals for them. They don't have many offensive weapons. Pacheco's been disappointing since coming back from the injury. Kareem Hunt's an okay running back, but he's no more than that. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is elite, as is kind of Travis Kelce is kind of elite.
You are such a scoundrel. Put respect on Travis Kelce's name.
No, look, okay, he has been elite. I don't think he's the same Travis Kelce as he was in previous years. That's my point.
That still counts as elite. He was Super Saiyan before. He's now still elite.
Okay, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if this was Travis's last year, by the way. But there we go.
I said that last year, but whatever.
Yeah. They don't have much talent out wide with Rashee Rice being out. If Rashee played the whole season, then sure, I would have no surprises in them going all the way to the Super Bowl. But they don't have enough weapons for me. Basically, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid have pulled them out of the fire on several occasions. They've had some luck as well along the way. The Bills are also heavily reliant on their quarterback, much like the Chiefs. But Josh Allen has had a better year than Patrick Mahomes. He's probably going to be the MVP, especially after beating the other candidate, Lamar Jackson, last week. And he can do it all. Mahomes, yes, you might like rushing attempts this week, but he's not really a running QB, whereas Josh Allen is. He can win games with his feet and with his arm. He is a proper leader in this team. And yeah, their wideouts might not be the best, but Khalil Shakir is super consistent. And crucially, they have a running game. The Chiefs don't really at the moment with Hunt and Pacheco. The Bills do with James Cook. He's very good. So I think the Bills have an extra added bonus on offense. I think their defense is every bit as good, if not better, than the Chiefs as well. So the only thing that can beat the Bills here is some shoddy calls from the officials, isn't it?
Or Travis Kelce.
One more point quickly. I think they'll win this game, the Bills, and go into the Super Bowl as favourites, regardless of who they play. And also, this is not from a betting perspective, but just like a feeling I get. I think Keon Coleman might have a good game against the Chiefs. He's kind of been developing as the season goes on. He's not the best wide receiver by any means, but it feels like he's about to shine, and maybe that'll happen against Kansas City.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he needs to because he's not had a massive year, but I get it. Stat, again, we'll play the guessing game. When was the last time the Chiefs scored over 30 points in a game?
Quite a while ago. What do you want me to answer this? You want me to answer how many games ago, or?
Well, I mean, I'll ruin it. It wasn't this season. It was last year.
Exactly.
They've hit 30 a couple of times, I think, this year, but they've not gone over it, which... I mean, you wouldn't mind them going over it, but look, their defense has been very good. I think a reason, though, that they might have to score more than 30 is the guy on the other side, Josh Allen, who he might be MVP. Last week, by the way, doesn't factor into MVP voting.
Ridiculous. They say that. I know they say that, but I think it does a little bit.
Come on, ridiculous. But Josh Allen, in the playoffs, Tom, do you know that in the playoffs, quarterbacks run the ball?
No way. It's not like you've said that before.
I know, real talk. But his rushing numbers increase in the playoffs, and they increase against Kansas City as well, just because he's desperate to beat these guys. He would love to beat these guys and get to the Super Bowl. In Week 11 against Kansas City, he had 12 rushing attempts, 55 yards, and a touchdown. In the playoffs last year, 12 rushing attempts, 72, and 2 touchdowns. In Week 10 last year, he had 10 carries, 32 yards, and a touchdown. In 2021, he had 11 carries, 68. If he goes double-digit carries again, he's going to go over his line, which is 47.5 rushing yards. He's been running the ball okay so far in the playoffs this year. Didn't really need to last year. The run game was good on the ground, but he's going to need to this time around. And I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, the Chiefs, they're not fantastic against... I'm going to call them running quarterbacks. And the reason I say that is because the last name on this list is not a name that you'd associate anymore with being a running quarterback. But they conceded 42 yards on 6 carries to CJ Stroud. Bo Nix was 7 for 47. And the last name on the list is Russell Wilson, 6 carries for 55 yards. He still had a good game against the Chiefs. Obviously, they're going to factor a lot more into stopping Josh Allen because he is the focal part of this offense. We know as well that the Chiefs, they're not good against tight ends. I was going to try and put up Dalton Kincaid, but his line is quite high. It's like 35 yards, and Kincaid has been real disappointing this year. So give me Josh Allen. I think he's going to have a good game. Wouldn't shock me if he found the end zone again. But you're talking shorter prices. Not as short as you would think, but I do think Josh Allen has a big one. Over 47.5 rushing yards is the final selection for me this week. I'm going 5, Tom. You're going 4.
Yeah, I don't want any more to do with this game. I want Buffalo to win, and that's it. So I'm sticking with just the one play in this AFC Championship matchup.
We'll go through our selections right now. Make sure you leave a comment down below, leave a like, and also subscribe. Tom, take it away.
4 selections in the NFL conference round. First up in the NFC game, I like Jaden Daniels for the Washington Commanders, over 54.5 rushing yards at 10-11. That's a joint play. Luke will add that to his as well. Secondly, I like AJ Brown for the Philadelphia Eagles, over 4.5 receptions. That's at 20-21. That line or price may shift, but hopefully not. Third, I like AJ Brown again for the Eagles, over 60.5 receiving yards at 10-11. And finally, my play of the day, and from heart and head perspective, this one, Buffalo Bills, money line against the KC Chiefs. See you later, Patrick Mahomes. They're not winning it this year. Give me 21-20, maybe 11-10, depending on which firm you're looking at there. But they're my 4 picks this week.
Gary's going to be livid in the comments below. Our resident Kansas City Chiefs fan, he's going to be raging.
Every week. You're against the KC Chiefs. Yeah, well, I am.
Damn it, Tom. My 5 selections this week. Zach Ertz is going to open things up with over 3.5 receptions. That's at 20-23. Jaden Daniels is going to follow that in and give us a play of the day. Not a play of the day, joint play winner. Over 54.5 rushing yards. That's also at 10-11. The play of the day is going to be the biggest priced one of the lot. That's going to be Patrick Mahomes, over 4.5 rushing attempts. Even money. 4.5. That's a ridiculous line. Travis Kelce, over 69.5 receiving yards. That's at 10-11 to shut Tom's dirty mouth and go 15 straight games in the playoffs. Over 70 yards. And Josh Allen, we're going to take him to round things off. Over 47.5 rushing yards at 10-11. That's my 5 plays for the week. Obviously, player of the day for me is Patrick Mahomes, over 4.5. We did get a comment last week, Tom, from Scott saying, regards to Bet Builder, we put up loads of selections, Scott, so pick your own ones out of that. But my most confident ones in this would be, I love Zach Ertz, I love Patrick Mahomes, and honestly, Kelce would be my 3. I love all 5 of mine, genuinely. I really like all 5 of mine, but just make sure you put Mahomes in there. What would your most confident ones be of your 4?
I like AJ Brown to have a good game against the Commanders. As I say, I think it'll be 1-on-1 throughout, and they're going to go more to the passing game. And obviously, I like Buffalo just to beat the Chiefs. I suppose the Buffalo side of things, including a team to win in a bet builder, is not something I would generally advise, albeit I don't bet builders myself. So maybe you just want to look to Luke's plays in that game. But yeah, I think AJ Brown will have a good game. What I will say is maybe if you want to add one to Luke's selection in the Buffalo Kansas City matchup, then try Keon Coleman, maybe receiving yards. I don't know what his line is at, but I think he'll have a decent game. And generally, he's overlooked by the traders.
Yeah, partially for good reason. But one thing I will say as well, if you are looking for sort of bet builders and further things, Keon Coleman's 18.5 receiving yards. But we're always active on social media before games. We're always active in comments down below as well. If you've got any questions about anything, we will get back to each and every one of you. But thank you very much for watching our latest NFL playoff edition. The next one is going to be the Super Bowl. We might do something next week. I'm not sure. But if you are tuning in for the first time, or if you've been a seasoned viewer, we will be here through the entirety of the off-season, providing plenty of NFL podcasts and plenty of NFL content. Tom, that's us done for yet another week. Only one more game to go after this.
Yeah, it's going to be a Super Bowl special as well in 2 weeks. And hopefully we can film it on, say, on Monday. Or maybe even during Pro Bowl week, depending on prices. So hopefully we can get out early. And yeah, it'll be one of the episodes not to miss. And obviously subscribe down below, as Luke has already said, so you don't miss out. We have a horse racing podcast on the channel as well. We had good success last week at Fairgrounds, so go check that one out. Maybe we can get you another winner. And do click that link below in the description to sign up to SBK if you want to take advantage of their offers. Just a reminder, 25% bonus on the first touchdown score and market in the Bills and Chiefs game this week.
Yeah, which last week was a surprise.
I can't even remember who scored the first touchdown. Was it James Cook?
Possibly.
Oh no, Ravens. It
was the Ravens.
Was it likely?
Yeah, I think it was likely.
I think it was likely.
Either way, well done if you found that. But that's us done for this week. Until we next get to speak to you, stay safe, look after one another, and it'll be the Super Bowl.